Hi guys, it's Clarice, and today is July 12th and the 15th session of my YouTube live painting with you guys, painting loose florals. As many of you know, last Sunday I was away because we were at the cottage and we had a fabulous time away. The weather was amazing. I heard while we were away from the GTA was kind of suffering a massive heat wave, which I guess luckily we avoided. So yeah, had a fabulous time there, and I had scheduled a I had actually scheduled a premiere video that I had pre-recorded for you guys, and it was on, hold on, I have it right here. I'm just waiting for you guys to trickle in. And it was on the sweet peas, and I am so astonished at the reception this got. So thanks guys so much for that. And yeah, just like I think in 4 days it was like 5,000 views, which was pretty amazing for my videos, I think. Anyways, I think we're ready to start soon. I just have my July monthly slip. It's from the 2020 calendar I had done earlier this year, and I just like to kind of show it as the new months come along. So this was for July, and it was very similar to the loose florals that I had done, the wildflowers, which is right here. Similar, right? Yeah, so you can do some pretty nice fancy stuff with your paintings if you really think about that, to kind of immortalize them or just use them in other things. Just going to see how many people are here before we begin. We want to make sure that I have my screen up on here, so as people are commenting, I am able to comment back. Oh, hey, Chris and Brittany. Awesome. Glad you could join. I'm so glad you remembered today. Did it have anything to do with the post on my stories and Instagram? Let me know if those are helpful for you guys, or even the email blast. I don't like to bombard people with too many emails, but I just figured a reminder is nice, especially for those who want to join. So that's why I send them. And hello, Diane. Welcome. Pamela, hi. All right, okay, so I think I am going to begin now. I think we have a decent amount of people. And just to let you know, today we're going to do a similar style of wild, loose flowers, because it seems like people really like the whole mixing and blending and loose strokes. I was just quickly doing some practice on here. We might end up doing something like this, we might not. Let's just see where the flow takes us. But I pre-mixed some colors, so to help you guys along, before I tell you about the colors, these are the brushes I will be using today. I am using my silver black velvet in the 4, the 8, my Neptune, Princeton Neptune in the 8, and then also my Squirrel Mop brush in the 1. These are my tried and true, and I've used them in almost every tutorial that I kind of put out there, almost all my videos. And for colors, so I have my paper towel ready as well. Make sure you have that. Helps a lot. And I'm just gonna show you the colors that I've pre-mixed. So I'm using my St. Petersburg White Nights, and I've mixed in a bit of the Madder Lake Red. So I have that there. And I've also mixed in the, I believe it's the red ochre with the Madder Lake Red to kind of get this more coral color. And then I have the golden right here to the side. So as I go along, I might mix a bit of these three into each other to kind of get similar colors so that they can complement each other. And then for my blues, I took in some of the, let me just make sure I have the names correct. I have some of the Azure blue, which is like that dark, it's It's almost like a Payne's gray, I think, in my opinion anyways, but it's just like a darker, it's more blue. I have some of the indigo as well. That's right here. And then I have some of the violet mixed in over here as well. So I might kind of end up using these for light florals along. I'll let you guys know. And then for my greens, I've mixed in my emerald, and then I've mixed it in with the umber, which is like the brownish green. So the emerald is like your bright dark green, and then the umber is like a brownish olivey green, I guess you could call it. So I've mixed those two, and I have some variations in here. The blue that you see here, I threw in a little bit of the, let me get this right, the ultramarine blue, which is kind of giving me some nice turquoise action happening in there. So again, this is pretty much what I will be using. And again, because the style is so loose and wild in nature almost, the colors are constantly blending into one another. So I just figured it's helpful if I give you an idea of which colors I'm using, and you don't necessarily have to follow along using the exact same ones, but similar enough should give you the results that I would get, I guess. So I'm just gonna quickly read comments before I begin. Yes, it's been helpful. Chris says it's been helpful. I guess this is for the stories to let you guys know that I'm starting. Yeah, I guess I should be mentioning 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in everything that I post. Becky, my education, I'm actually a graphic designer. So that's what I went to school for. I still am a graphic designer. So if you head onto my website, you can see most of my work there. As currently my Instagram has been taken over with watercolor since COVID. Hi Lydia, welcome. Nice to see you here. Hi Deborah from South Carolina. Hi Isabel, thanks so much for the compliment. All right guys, we're ready to begin. Just want to make sure you can see my sheet here, and then we will begin. Okay, so I think for today what we're going to do is, I have a basic idea of what we'll do. So this is my clean slate where we're going to begin with. And instead of doing like a full wreath, I think we'll do like a semicircle version of it on 2 ends. And this way it'll give us, the first time I do it, I'll show you exactly all the leaves and florals we'll be using. And then the second time around, you can either follow along with me, or you can kind of pick and choose how you would like to have your floral display. So that second time around will be more of a do it by yourself if you want to, or you can just follow along with me. So to begin with, I'm going to use my number 4 Squirrel Mop brush, and let's just tackle the roses right away. And we can do something very similar to this over here. Actually, no, I changed my mind. Let's tackle the dahlia looking floral right away. So I'm going to use my number 4 to lay down a thick version of this color in the center, no, at the top here, since we're doing like a semicircle. So I'm just going to get some of the color really quickly. This palette is massively huge, so it's a little bit awkward to kind of show you guys at the same time, but I'm going to do my best. I will take some of the coral that I've mixed with the Madder Lake, because I think it's quite pretty. And I'm just mixing that in. Oh yes, Brittany, sorry, I just happened to glance. I'm using my Old Faithful Canson watercolor paper, guys, for everyone who doesn't know. All right, so I have some of the color on here. And what I'm going to essentially start off doing is just adding little lines in a floral kind of circular manner and leaving white space in between. Feel free to get back in there in your palette and get like a darker color on your brush, or you can get a different variation of the color as well. And this will help with the next thing that we're going to do here, and you will see that soon. So I'm just kind of lightly adding paint in like pointillism manner all around. And then once I have that, I'm going to go in and take my Squirrel Mop brush and with just water on it, but making sure that I'm dabbing it lightly onto my paper towels so I don't have clumps of too much water on here, not clumps. And then I'm just going to touch the center and extend. And again, touching the center, and I'm going to extend. And I'm doing the same thing here and all around. And I just want it to be loose strokes. You don't want to define your petals too much. So you can see how the water is kind of flowed in over here. That's a tad bit too much water, but it's okay. I'm just going to leave that here so you guys can see the difference between how the color flows when you have too much water as opposed to just enough. You might be going for that look, in which case absolutely have that amount of water. And I'm just going to do one last floral stroke here, and that goes all the way in, and I'm touching up this side on here. So we have this really nice loose petally floral thing happening. I'm going to go back, take my number 4, and I am going to go back to the center and just add more of the color. And what this does is it'll flare, it'll give you like this monochromatic flare, dark on the center, and kind of fades off because the petal area that we've just painted in with water is still damp. And so it gives you this really nice natural watercolor effect. The areas it doesn't give that to you, you can tell that it's already dry. And so you've kind of missed the boat on that one. But that's okay because that's the nature of watercolor. Not all of it will act exactly the same way. And feel free to kind of go in and touch any areas that you want to add additional, I guess, strokes to, because see right here, I have a little bit of white space. And while white space, I always say is good, you might want to just go in with just water on your brush and kind of just add another hint of a petal and see what happens. Like you can see there's a pull of color, but everything else is white. So it's almost like a very faint hint of a petal, and that's kind of nice when you're painting in this style, which is very, I guess, loose. So that's essentially how you do this wide floral with several petals. And actually, as I'm going to go along, I think I'm just going to add a little bit more in between so it'll look like a nice fuller floral. So I'm literally just pulling the color from the petal here already and adding some light strokes. And you can see the water, the color seeping, blending in with the water. And it'll only blend in the areas where the water is touched. So if you make sure that the water you lay down is in the form of a petal, it'll only go off in that area. So I'll let this dry for now, and then we'll come back to it and do another layer on this. So we'll leave this for now. And then the next thing we're going to do is I will take, using my number 8, we'll create some leaves. So I have the greens mixed, as I previously mentioned. I am going to use the green that I mixed with the umber, which is right here. So that is a mixture of the emerald and a olivey green, which is like a brownish green. So I'm just going to mix that up onto my number 8. And then once I have that, I'm just going to do some leaves that kind of look like this version right up here. So slightly different from what I normally do. So I'm just lightly adding a stroke. This was a little bit damp. I did that on purpose so it could blend in nicely. I'm going to add 1 stroke, 2 strokes, then an extension. And at this point, I'm going to take in a different variation of the green that I have on my palette. 1 stroke, 2 stroke. Make sure it touches the center of the stem. And this way you get a nice flare of 2 greens meeting together. Again, I'm going back to my palette. I'm going to get a slight different variation of a green, add it over here, and add another leaf. And you always want to touch up the stem and the bottom of the leaf to make it darker. I mean, you don't have to, but I like to, so I guess not always. Go with the flow in terms of what you feel like you want to do. And then let's not forget, what I like to also do is, and this is a nice effect, you can take another brush and just with water on it, just kind of go next to another leaf that you've done, and you can create another shape of a leaf without any color on it, but just making sure you touch the leaf to the side, so then the water extends into that area that you've just dampened on your sheet. And it's a nice effect. So again, I'll do another one over here so you can see. And again, these will be very light leaves, but it has that nice soft feel to it. All right, so we'll do a few more so you can see how that works. And then we can go on. Now, I think a lot of these areas are dried up. This is slightly damp, so let's just go here. So I'm going to go this way, have an extension out here, 1 stroke, 2 stroke, you have your leaf. You can leave some white space in between. I'll show you how you do that in this one here. I'm getting another variation of green, and I'm just going to go 1, 2. And I left a little bit of white space. Now you can have the longer, more linear white space. I've added a little more blue to my brush now. And so you can see it's almost like a turquoise feel here, right? So going back to my just water brush, I am going to add just water strokes here to create this leaf. And you can see how the color just trickles into the water area. It's quite a nice technique to use if you want to soften the look and feel of a certain floral or just leaves. If you don't want it to be too overpowering, it's nice. And then I can also extend and add another one. Again, it'll be very, very faint and light, but it looks quite nice. It's a nice effect. I like it. I figured I'd show it to you guys as well. So that's how you would do that. Then moving on, we can do our rose, and I would say let's just do a rose around here, and we'll make them smaller roses because this floral has turned out to be quite big. And so for the smaller rose, I will use my number 4 because it's nice and fine. And for this one, I will take more of the orange, the golden from St. Petersburg that I have mixed on my palette. And I'm going to make sure that it's a nice, thick, saturated mix of color and water. And then I'm just going to go and add little strokes, C strokes on here. And actually, I think I want the floral, the rose to be in this direction. So I'm just going to turn this over so you can kind of see me add my strokes. So I want more strokes down, less strokes at the top, because you'll see more of the petals down here, and like because it's in that direction, right? So I mean, I hope I'm explaining that properly. But once I start adding the water, you'll see exactly what I mean. So just adding a couple of strokes here and there. And at this point, if you want to go in and get some of your coral or your red and you just want to add a couple of highlights here and there, now is the time to do that. And then you have like this nice two-toned rose. Maybe the center is darker red or orange. And now once I have that, I'm just going to go in with my number 8 Neptune. And I'm just going to lightly add water. So this brush only has water on it. Just make sure you have your paper towel, dab it a little bit so that there isn't too much water, because what you want to do is just wet the edges of the color you've laid down, but you don't want to close up the space between, say between the two colors, I guess the two strokes that you have. You want to leave that white space in between, and that will create a very nice faint light and shadow kind of effect, which is very helpful for minimalistic roses and gives you that nice dreamy look. And I love dreamy flowers, so you guys know that about me already. And yeah, so as you can see, this flower is kind of facing upward. You don't see a lot of the detail at the top, but most of it's kind of almost at, like, I guess at the back of the pink floral, but they kind of blend into one another. So just another style of loose florals. And while this area is still damp, if you wanted a slightly more flare of color happening, just take in take in any of the reds that you've pre-mixed using your number 4 just at the tip, kind of add it just at the edges. And you don't need a lot because you don't want it to be too overpowering. Or you could just stick with adding it just at the center, and that's good enough. It doesn't have to be all over. Just like that, and then let it go. And if you can't let it go, that's okay. Don't feel bad, because I also have an issue letting things go. So I'm just going to wash off this area here. It's too much. All right, so there we go. So you have that nice little rose peeking out. And then you can absolutely use this dampness right here to kind of take advantage. Go ahead and add some blue florals, kind of like these ones that we have over here. So blue and green. So firstly, what I'll do is I'll add the green stems. So let's add, use any version of the green that you have with you right now. I'm not going to be too nitpicky about what green you use. I'm using my popular umber mixed with emerald that I have mixed. So it'll be very similar to this. But you know what? Actually, no. I need it to be a slightly lighter green than these. So I'm going to add a tad bit of yellow to my green so I can get a younger, fresher looking green happening for these florals. So this is what that green looks like right now. So it's like a lighter green happening. And I'm just adding stems. And once I have that laid down, I'll use my number 8 because I don't want to mix and lose time washing color off the brushes. I'm going to get some of the azure blue. So now this part's fun because I'm going to be mixing the 3 different kinds of blues that I have in here. So I'm using my azure blue that I first have, and I'm just going to add light strokes. 1, 2, 3. Another one here. More here. I'm going to add my little dots that I like, that I mentioned to you guys many times. And then once I have this, I'm washing off the blue and I'm getting some of the purple that I pre-mixed. And I'm adding the purple in there. Either as another petal or just at the bottom of it to have it flare up in the blue. Or as the little dots that I like to call them, which is like an indication of buds, or yeah, buds, budding florals, flowers, whatever you call it. And then another thing you can also do is just taking your brush, washing off all the color, and just with water, just lightening the edges by just going around the edges, adding more dots, or just kind of adding certain strokes to kind of loosen up and make it more loose. Yes. So that's one version. I'll do it again. Let's do it. Let's do it over here. But before I do continue doing that there, what I want to do is quickly add some strokes for leaves, just because it's still a little bit damp. And so I'm just adding, I just added a stem, and I'm adding a couple of leaves. And again, going at the edge or bottom of the leaves, I'm just adding a darker green. And then obviously you can go back in with just a little bit of water in on your brush and just add lighter leaves that kind of just fade off. There we go. So something loose and light like that, that's good enough. And you can just kind of trail off. It doesn't have to be dark all over. So we'll do the same thing here, and then you can continue on. So we'll have one going this way on this side. And I'm just creating the stems like I did previously. And then going in first with the azure blue, I'm just going to create very light. See how that blue blended in with the green? That's when you have like a nice enough dampness happening on your sheet of paper. Then I'm going to go in with the other blue that I have on here and add that on. Oh, it actually looks very similar. Then I'm going to go in with the purple. And just adding strokes. And then you can either taper off with, remember, like I was saying, the buds, without giving it too much detail. Or you can just go in with your brush with just water on it and have that spread a little bit. So just, I only have water on this brush right now, and I'm just going to add some water marks, I guess, around the color, making it kind of spread almost so it looks like a fade off. And then for the edges of some of these florals, I'm just going to add some water to it. Yep, and there we go. Just have it, let it go at that point. And then once I have that happening, I'm just going to get some of the green, taking advantage of the fact that things are still damp. Now this green looks slightly different, but that's because I mixed it in, well, when I was laying the green on, it hit some of the blue. So that'll happen, and if that happens, let it happen, because it's a nice effect as well. And just feel free to add the greens wherever you feel necessary. Make this your own painting, guys. Or you can just follow me. It's totally up to you. There we go. So I'm good with that. I don't want to overdo that too much. I'm going to let that dry. And then finally, I think what we can end up doing is going back to this floral and adding a little more detail to it right now, because now that it's dried up, it looks nice, but we can add one more layer of it and you'll see how that changes the entire look of this floral. So we're going to go back and get a more of that red, the Madder Lake red that I have mixed up. And I'm just going to get it on my number 4 brush. And once I have that, I'm just going to go back to the center and do exactly what I did the first time around. And I'm just adding strokes. So make sure it's really nice and saturated, guys, the color. So it's nice and dark over the pink that you already have. And now once we have this, I'm going to go back, get more of that color on my brush, mix it with a little bit of the orange, maybe. You don't have to. And then I'm just going to add in some details like this. Just dipping my brush in water to get more. Getting some of the coral. And I'm just adding strokes that touch the center, but leaving it kind of open-ended, so it's not a full stroke, but you want it to be nice and loose. And adding it all the way around. And then adding some of the orange in some of the areas that are damp. And by orange, I mean the golden that I had mixed up already. And it just gives the floral a much fuller look and feel. Almost like a dahlia. And then for the center, again, I'm going to take some of the red, but I'm going to mix it with some of the purple to get like a nice dark color, because I don't want to use black. And I'm just going to add little dots, but also leaving enough white space so it doesn't get too saturated and dark in the center. And then I'll just leave it at that. And there you have that. And then to finish off, I guess we can just do some nice greenery items happening. And we can keep these fairly simple. Let's see. We can use some of the regular greens that I normally do. So using the same green that I have mixed up, this time I'm going to mix up some of that yellow green that I have with the umber to get like a darker, richer green. And I'm just going to create strokes. I know lots of you mentioned that you struggle with adding leaves, but they're actually the easiest thing you can ever do. So here's what I'm doing. I'm just going to add some green using my number 8. I'm just going to do a stroke so you know exactly where the leaf is going to be. And then I'm pressing it down, bringing it down. There's one. And then using my number 4, actually no, using my number 8, making sure that there's no water on it, sorry, no color on it, with just water, I'm going to add another stroke here. Or actually, I'll add the stroke from the green up. And then trying to create like a loose, lighter leaf that's faded off in the background. And leave that way. And then you can always add some extra highlights to it by adding some darker green at the bottom here. There we go. And then I'll do some over here as well. So I'm just giving it some direction so I know where the leaves are going. And then pressing down and dragging out. I dip in water again, pressing down and dragging out. And there you go. You have your leaf. I'm just going to add some more green at the tip so it spreads out nicely. And then adding a looser version of that leaf on here. But using a little blue on my brush. I'm just going to quickly, lightly extend and do that. So we have those leaves there. And then we can just have a few light ones over here at the top. But not giving it too much detail, so we can just keep it light and loose. So I think that's enough greenery. You can always just kind of take your number 4 and just lightly, with just a tiny amount of blue on it, just to add more of that blue effect happening. Just kind of do leaves that are lighter with blue this way and more linear, and that breaks up your painting quite nicely, pulling out some of the blues as well. And maybe off to the side here. And again, placement is important. So again, if you're creating something like this for a card or a wall hanging or what have you, so just, I guess, measuring the space that you're allotted to create, I guess, to have the size of it is important. So just whether it's a square or a rectangle, this has obviously allowed me to extend here and here, but you might be working more with a square, in which case you might only have this much space. So sizing is always important if you're doing a project on that level. So just keep that in mind and you should be good to go. Yeah, so there we go. So this is what the top looks like. It's taken me a little bit longer than I anticipated. What do you guys think? Should I do this area as well? Would that be helpful for you guys, or should we call it quits for today? Is this enough for you to kind of create the rest of it? Let me know in the comments, guys, in the chat. I am reading your chat right now. I'm actually reading comments, so feel free to message as I am catching up with people's chat happening here. Hi Beverly. Hi Diane from Toronto. Thank you so much. Zanette. Wow, 108 in the shade in Las Vegas. I can't even imagine that at this point. Yep, that's right, WJ. It's the whole idea of light leaves are so that it can be in the background more than in the foreground. Release High, so glad you like it. Okay, great. So it looks like everyone is saying to continue. Let's continue. All right, let's do this again, guys. And watch how this time it might not look exactly like this as we go along. I'm going to try and see if I can get the whole sheet on my screen so you can see how I did it previously. Let me see where do I need to move my sheet so you can see everything. Okay, I think this is good enough, right? Here you can see what I did previously, and we'll create the new ones over here. Okay, fabulous. Let's continue. So back to number 4, which is where most of the floral centers begin for me. We're going to use, this time, just to kind of switch things out, let's perhaps make this floral, the Dahlia one, more of the orange, and then we'll make the rose the pink, just to kind of switch it out and try new things. So I'm using my golden from St. Petersburg for this Dahlia looking type floral. And what we're starting off by doing is getting a whole bunch of saturated, nice, thick color onto your number 4 so we can add the center. And I have that on my number 4 here, so I am just going to add it down. Let's start it over here. So I'm just adding lines in a circular fashion, and I want to leave white space in between, so try and keep that in mind. Sometimes it gets away from me, so if you can make a conscious effort to leave white space as you're adding this, that would be great. So getting more color right now. I'm going to add more of it on here because the next step is imperative for creating the petals. So I'm adding more lines slightly above the center. And I want to make sure that there's enough water on there too. Then using my Squirrel Mop brush, we're going to take out as much water as we can, and touching the center, kind of extend out and let the water flow. And you just want to create these nice long strokes. Now, because it's a Squirrel Mop brush, sometimes what can happen is it's quite a thick brush. So literally just use the tip off the brush to create these strokes. And that should help with making sure it's not too thick. And then you still get those thin, lean petals. Leave white space in between, guys. And if you feel like it's too light, that's okay, don't worry about it. Just keep going. Better light than dark, I say. So there we go, we have that. And now while it's still damp, we'll take some of the red, which is the Madder Lake red in my case. So I'm just going to take some of that red. I have not washed off the orange or the golden from my brush, so this red might look more orangey. And I'm just going to add color in the center. So this way the color seeps into the damp areas and gives it a nice monochromatic, two-toned look. I'm going to get more of that red, and hopefully it seeps in nicely. There we go. Now Sorry guys, it looks like, hold on. There was an issue and it stopped recording. Sorry. I don't know where we last left off. I just happened to look up at the screen and it showed me that it had stopped recording for some reason. But here we are again. And I'm just waiting for the screen to kind of clear up because it looks very blurry. I wonder if it's my internet connection. I'm just still waiting for it to clear up. Can you guys see clearly or is it just me? Chris, it was only a few seconds. Oh, good. I'm happy. Can you guys see clearly? Oh, perfect. Okay, it's clear. No, it's not Rogers, but I mean, I think the carrier we have is affiliated very closely with Rogers, which means I think we're using the Rogers towers or whatever. So maybe that's why. Sorry about that. We will continue. So we're going to let this one dry off and then we'll work our magic, something similar to that once we do the rest of it. So letting this dry, we're going to go ahead and create the rose. And for the rose, let's create the rose on this side. Switch the places slightly. And like I said, for the rose, we're going to use the red. So I'm just getting more of that red, mixing it up. And I am going to use the number 4 to start with the center, which is always in C strokes. So, oh, before we do C strokes, I'm going to turn it around because I need to make sure I'm aware of which direction this rose is going to be in. It's going to be this direction. So, creating C strokes, we're doing little C strokes or comma strokes, whatever you want to call them. Light strokes all around. And the paper kind of does this weird thing. It's almost like it's not watercolor paper at the bottom anymore. I don't know. It's kind of weird, but let's just see how it pans out. So don't want to create too many strokes at the top because you're seeing most at the bottom. That's enough for now. So I'm just going to wash off the color and actually use my number 8. With just water on it, I'm just going to lightly blend. Yeah, see, it's not blending as much. Maybe that's why this is where Canson, I guess, fails. Because it's not the prettiest effect. But, I mean, we already did the top one there, so you guys know exactly what it should look like. So I'm not overly worried about that. We can still continue and it doesn't look too bad. So I'm just applying water, but I want to make sure that I'm not closing up all the space between the layers of color I have, because the white space kind of adds something nice. And then for the center, finally, I'm just going to quickly do more C strokes in the center with just the water that I have. And then once that's done, I'm going to take my number 4 again. I'm going to take my number 4 again and get some of the orange to add to the center. And I'm just adding the orange here. And then I can add some to the side as well. Oh, that was too much orange, but that's okay. Yep, so did it again. I'm going to try and hurry on with this because I don't want to have it become annoying for you guys. But yeah, I noticed it right away. So I'm actually going to stand and watch just in case it dies off again. All right, so those are the strokes. I'm just blending off the orange here so it doesn't look like orange lines. And just mixing some of this. And there we go. We'll leave it at that. Now we can kind of go off into the other greens that I mentioned. So using my number 8, we're going to create these little guys over here. And I'm just going to use the green that I already have. And we will start off with doing it on this side of the rose. And I'm doing it slightly different, obviously, because on that side I did it more with the big spider looking flower. And I'm going to add some blue to my green and get another variation of green happening here. So it looks like that. And then we'll do the same thing on this side. Let's do it up, going up this way. And then right away I'm going to use my number 8 with just water on it, and I'm going to create a green leaf here, and then create another one here, and add a little bit of that blue that I was talking about. There we go. Keep it light and airy. And then let's just see, what else can we do? Yes, I think now we can go on with the lighter blue florals. So using my number 4, I'm going to get some of the light green that I had mixed up and add some of those stems for the blue florals. So let's do that over here. They don't have to connect, but as long as they kind of look like they're connecting, that's good enough too. And then I'll use my number 8 for the application of the blue. Here's my paper towel. Here we go. So getting some of the azure blue that I have, I'm just going to lightly add in strokes. And then immediately getting some of the other purpley blue. I'm going to add the other version here. And just adding a couple of dots to kind of represent buds or what have you. And then at the same time, now I don't want to, using my number 8 and just water on it, I'm just going to lightly add some water strokes. And it would be helpful to add a tad bit more of that azure blue because it looks very purpley right now. And then we can just leave it at that. So it looks like, I don't know what it is. It seems to be internet, but I'm not quite sure. This is the 3rd time this has happened, guys. So really sorry. Maybe I should just end it right now because I don't want it to be too annoying for all of you. So I'll just finish this one area here and then we'll end off that way because, again, I don't want it to be too annoying. So I'm just adding some of the green leaves. And you see the nice blend of the blue and the green happening. I'm just adding some more greenery around here. And I've touched as much of the blue as I can as well, just so it can pick up on that. And yep, let's just leave it at that. And finally, I think we should just highlight this one with the red, and hopefully the internet connection doesn't drop off again. So this time for the center, I am using the orange exactly like I did before. The golden orange. I'm just mixing it up with a little bit of my red ochre to get a nice bright orange. And I'm going to highlight the center like this. Same way as I did before, I'm just adding the strokes. And then once I have the strokes in, I'm just going to dip my brush in water, and I'm extending to draw in thinner petals. Yep, so it did it for the 4th time again. And yep, I'm just gonna rush through this. And I'm really sorry this is happening, guys. I did not anticipate the connection was this bad today. But then again, you can't really figure out things like this. It's kind of like a hit or miss, I guess. So I guess we'll have to end it sooner. Sorry about that. I'm trying to rush through this one floral here. But at least you have most of it at the top here. So you can kind of go with this one and you know exactly how you should do it, and you can do the rest. I might make a time lapse of this though and have it up on Facebook and Instagram so you guys can check it out there maybe. But thanks so much guys for watching. I really appreciate your time. Sorry about this connection again. Let me know what you guys thought about this tutorial in your comments below, or if you end up doing it, please do share it with me on Instagram and Facebook. I love hearing from you guys, and I love seeing your work. And thank you. I'm so appreciative of this time that you spend with me on your Sunday, because I know Sunday is like Sabbath for so many of us. But yes, thanks so much guys again. And yeah, if you find these videos helpful, please do share on your social media channels. It really does help my channel and allow me to kind of continue put out some nice colorful tutorials for you guys.